Imagine you wake up one morning, open the curtains, and surprise, the sun is gone. Not behind clouds, not an eclipse, not nighttime. It's simply missing. The entire sky is dark, stars are visible, and the Earth is just floating there without its usual bright spotlight. For the first few minutes, humanity would probably celebrate. Social media would explode with hashtags like hashtag dark day and hashtag where is the sun. Stickmen everywhere would run into the streets to enjoy this cosmic holiday. Kids would cheer for a 24-hour stargazing party. Couples would take romantic walks under constellations they'd never seen so clearly before. And night owls would scream, "Finally, our time has come." But after the initial thrill, things would start to get strange. The first effect is the sudden plunge in temperature. The Earth, without sunlight, cools rapidly. Within a few hours, global temperatures drop by several degrees. People in warm places might not notice at first, but those in colder climates would immediately shiver. Stickmen who left home in t-shirts would be running back for jackets, scarves, and eventually blankets. Within 12 hours of darkness, the average surface temperature could drop by as much as 10 degrees Celsius. For some ecosystems, that's already catastrophic. Plants would be confused too. Sunflowers would be looking around like, "Hey, where did my spotlight go?" Photosynthesis would stop instantly. For one day, that's not a huge disaster. Plants can survive short breaks, but crops in sensitive growth stages would get stressed, and farmers would already panic. Entire stickman farms would gather around their fields with flashlights, desperately trying to convince their wheat to keep growing. And then there's the issue of light. With no sun, the only illumination would come from stars, the moon, and artificial lights. The moon itself would be dark if this disappearance happened during daytime, because, remember, the moon only shines by reflecting sunlight. So, in this scenario, unless the moon happens to be full and already in the night sky, it would vanish too, leaving us with just the faint glow of distant stars. Cities would turn on every streetlight, creating glowing bubbles in the darkness, but the countryside would be pitch black. Imagine billions of stickmen stumbling around with flashlights, bumping into trees, cars, and each other. As the hours pass, animals would freak out. Birds rely on daylight cycles for navigation, insects rely on the sun's warmth, and even humans are wired to the rhythm of day and night. Circadian clocks would crash. Stickmen trying to sleep would wonder if it's still bedtime, while others would demand a second dinner because their bodies couldn't tell the difference anymore. Airports would be chaos as migrating birds decide to land on runways. Whales surface in confusion, and cows refuse to be milked because their morning never came. But the real danger is the chain reaction in the atmosphere and oceans. The sun powers wind circulation, weather systems, and currents. With no heating from above, winds weaken, storm formation halts, and ocean surfaces start cooling. In just 24 hours, this wouldn't freeze the seas, but the upper layers would feel the chill. A few unlucky stickmen on the beach would watch the ocean steam like a giant pot losing its lid. Now, here's the good news. The Earth itself doesn't instantly freeze solid. Our planet has a lot of thermal inertia. It takes weeks without sunlight for oceans to truly ice over, and months for the atmosphere to collapse into a frozen wasteland. So, in our one-day experiment, civilization wouldn't collapse. Stickmen wouldn't be frozen popsicles yet, but they'd sure be uncomfortable. After about 18 hours of pure darkness, panic would set in. Rumors of apocalypse would spread. Religious groups would announce the end of times. Economists would predict a total collapse of markets. Cats would sleep even more than usual, which is impressive, and dogs would refuse to go outside because everything looks like midnight. Humanity would begin to wonder, what if the sun never comes back? And then, after a full 24 hours, there it is. The sun suddenly reappears, blazing back into the sky, as if nothing ever happened. Temperatures would slowly rebound. Plants would resume photosynthesis like, all right, let's pretend that didn't happen. Animals would cautiously return to their routines. Stickmen everywhere would celebrate, hugging, dancing, and promising never to take daylight for granted again. Social media would invent new holidays. The Day Without Sun, celebrated every year with candles and hot cocoa. But scientists would still ask, what just happened? Where did the sun go? Was it a cosmic glitch? Did someone unplug the universe? If it were possible for the sun to actually disappear physically, Earth would have been in far more trouble than just 24 hours of darkness. Gravity from the sun keeps our planet in orbit. If the sun truly vanished, Earth would fly off in a straight line into interstellar space, dragging the moon with it, and humanity would be doomed in a few months. Fortunately, in our scenario, we're just imagining a temporary blackout, like someone flipped the light switch of the solar system. So, what if the sun disappeared for 24 hours? We'd freeze a little, panic a lot, confuse every living creature on the planet, and then be incredibly relieved when it came back. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you see a sunny morning, you'll appreciate how much that giant fireball in the sky really matters.